Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at the Cross from designer Peter Voth and produced by Riffle Shuffle. This is the latest deck in Riffle Shuffle's line of more premium decks. It's a series of luxury designs that feature ornate tuck boxes, fully custom decks, and a series of interesting and diverse themes and talented artists that they've worked with over the years. A common criticism, and a fair one in my opinion, is that the Riffle Shuffle decks get to be a little bit formulaic. A lot of the same artistic ideas that you see repeated from one deck to the next. And definitely some commonalities in how the Kickstarter campaigns are run. But for me, as long as they keep bringing these interesting artists, beautiful themes to life, and this kind of level of quality, I'm always going to be a fan. So excited to get into this one, which is a first time that they've worked with Peter Voth. Peter's an illustrator out of Germany who's done some international work for a number of different clients across different industries. And his intricate art style is highlighted with historical inspiration, and he brings a lot of line engraving techniques that to me bring to mind other really well-known playing card artists like the amazing Jeff Trish, who did the Sons of Liberty deck for Art of Play. And the Victorian style that shows up in a lot of Peter's art is, in my opinion, incredibly well suited to playing cards. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to this theme as he pairs up with Riffle Shuffle on this religious inspired deck. Three different versions of the deck that we're going to take a look at. We have the Admiral Blue here, as well as the Martyr Maroon. So two different versions that are kind of the standard versions in blue and red. These are limited to 1,800. And then we have the Golden Grace edition here in the black tuck. This one's even more limited, only 800 of these. So we'll get a chance to look at all of them, but we're going to start off with my personal favorite version of the deck with the Admiral Blue. All right, so starting with the tuck box, it's done on a matte blue cardstock, and it's covered with multiple colors of foil. We have the gold, that pale blue, and then a little bit of white for the name of the deck running across the center here. Beautiful artwork on this one, subtle embossing that brings everything even more to life, and you get a flavor of just how much detail Peter puts into his artwork. Beautiful filigree and just details filling every single square inch of this one. Of course, the highlights, that gold cross in the center there with the ringed crown at the top. Of course, that's the name of the deck and the main symbol within Christianity. And then other religious icons all the way through, including the kneeling angels at the top, crosses in hand, or the lion and the lamb down here at the bottom, kind of symbolizing the two different aspects of Jesus. So one is the lamb to be slain, and then the other as the conquering lion of Judah, kind of a symbol of the second coming of Christ. Beautiful look to this one. You get little Latin phrases that'll appear in a few different areas of the deck, including this one, Crux Christi Nostra Salus, which translates to Christ's cross is our salvation. Beautiful look at this one. Love the shine of the foil, that pale blue against the navy blue. Just a great contrast. Looks fantastic. And then on the sides, some kind of architectural elements with cross, the name of the deck once again. Repeated on the other side of the deck. Some ad copy on the bottom for Peter Voth, Riffle Shuffle, and then mentions these are made in Taiwan. So these decks are printed by the Taiwan Playing Card Company on their luxury stock. And then the top, once again, name of the deck, cross. And then the back's going to be a slightly embossed and foiled version of the back design of the cards. We'll get a look at that in a second. And then it's also finished out with this kind of matte foil seal here that reads around the edge of it. Break the seal only with reverence. And then it's numbered at the bottom out of the 1800 deck edition. Beautiful look to the tuck box, and the details continue on the inner flaps as well. So in the main inner flap here, get the symbol of the two doves, symbols of peace. And then another Latin phrase, this one, Rex Regum et Dominus Dominatium, which means the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And then what these are called Christograms here on the inner flaps. This one, the X with the P there, that kind of dual symbol. This is called the Chi Rho, which is the first two letters of the Greek word Christos kind of combined into a single symbol. So the Chi and the Rho. And then on the other side, we have the IHS, which is an abbreviation for the name Jesus. So Christograms, just sort of monograms that are abbreviations for the name of Jesus Christ. And they will often appear as kind of symbols in Christianity. And the reverse of the inner flaps here, we get the candle, one candle on one side symbolizing light, and then the blown out candle symbolizing darkness on the other. Beautiful look to it. And like a lot of Riffle Shuffle decks, we get some fantastic interior foiling. And the scene on the inside here is done in this really brilliant, sparkling blue and gold, kind of a rainbow foil. Not sure how well it's showing up here, but there's actually a slight rainbow shimmer to the foil in this one. Really nicely done. Great look to it. And then the scene on the inside kind of features one of the main design focuses of the deck. So above Westminster Abbey's Great West Door, there stands a row of 10 statues, and they're known as the modern martyrs, 10 figures who were killed for their faith during the 20th century. And the beautiful architectural monument adorns the interior of the tuck box in this really fantastic scene. And those 10 are going to make an appearance again as the quartz of the deck. So stay tuned for that. And then really a little bit hard to see here. I'll kind of zoom in, so hopefully you can read that. But there's yet another Latin phrase hidden at the bottom of the tuck box here. This one reads Dominus Noster Jesus Christu Universarum Rex, which means our Lord Jesus Christ, King of the universe. It's also the name of a Catholic feast day that's celebrated the Sunday before Advent. So there you go. That is the tuck box here. Beautifully done all the way through. Just some fantastic detailing. Nothing to complain about there. But more to come, so let's save some time to look at the cards. And we'll start here with the back design. All right, so really kind of the same artwork that we saw on the tuck box here, just done in kind of a different color scheme. It's a navy blue background, and it is covered with gold metallic inks as kind of the primary color. Some of the same imagery that we saw on the tuck box. Of course, you have the cross there, you have the angels at the top bearing the crown at the top, and then you have the lion and the lamb, once again, the Lamb of God and the Lion of Judah. And then here in the middle, a little bit harder to see, you have the dove, a symbol of peace, and then the eagle, who's a symbol of John the Evangelist, who wrote one of the Gospels, and so the eagle there is kind of one of his symbols. But beautiful look to it, nice thin white poker border, and lots of patterning to make sure that every inch of this is covered with detail. Beautifully done on the back design. I love kind of how symmetrical it is, the two-way design, just really nicely done. All right, now we turn to the cards, and we'll start off by taking a look at the two jokers. So two almost identical jokers, just sort of mirror images of each other, one done with blue, one with black. You get the background that kind of resembles the archways in Westminster Abbey, and it features a beautiful look at St. George. St. George, according to legend, slew a savage dragon, and he's today still venerated in the Catholic Church as a powerful symbol. The dragon story, of course, kind of grew from the stories of the early church, so obviously a little bit more myth and legend, but he was an actual soldier who is still revered, and he was particularly a symbol of some of the early crusades. You can see him here riding on his rearing horse, and then the dragon slain at his feet. Beautiful image. The gold metallics really highlight this one nicely. Just a great image overall. And St. George, like everybody else in this deck, he as well was a martyr himself, so he was beheaded to end his own life. All right, so that is the two jokers. We also have four beautifully done aces, and each one of the aces represent the four evangelists who wrote the four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And we start off with Matthew as the ace of spades here, depicted as a winged man. He wrote, obviously, the Gospel of Matthew, and so the angel here is sort of his symbol. Love the way those kind of wings frame up the sides of the spade pip, and then you get the sort of ad copy there at the bottom. Pip and index done nicely, kind of a custom font on the index, done here in gold metallic, and then a pretty standard shaped pip there. The other three aces represent the other three authors of the biblical Gospels. So here you have the winged eagle kind of proudly standing here on the Ace of Hearts. The eagle is a symbol, I kind of mentioned this before, of John, the Gospel of John. And then next we have the winged lion here, who represents Mark and is a symbol of courage. And then finally the winged ox, who represents Luke as a symbol of sacrifice and service. Love the way the wings work on all four of these, and just really just beautifully done. So you get kind of black accents on the black cards, and then dark maroon or red accents on the red cards. So nice set of aces there. The number cards are all fully custom as well, and I can definitely see some influences like from Kevin Cantrell as I look through the number cards. So Kevin Cantrell in his decks will always do little details in the pips, and he likes to do these little emblems in the center, and so Peter Voth kind of used that as well in this deck. So you get the crosses in the middle of the spade pip here, kind of more of a negative space in the spade pip with the black outline, and then has that little cross symbol there in gold. And you'll see that cross symbol kind of appear as sort of filler in between the pips. Like I said, it's something that Kevin Cantrell does in his decks as well, and a feature I really like. But overall, very ornate pips, and I love the design work on these. So here's the red pips. If I have one criticism on the pips, it's that it's a little bit hard to tell the difference between the black and the red pips. They look very similar. Shapes are definitely familiar, but the color there, because so much of it's empty space, doesn't stand out quite as much. But you'll see all of them have their own kind of unique design, each of them kind of filling in with the cross in the center. So there's a look at the clubs, outlined in black, and then back to the final red suit with the hearts. So that's the number cards. And then we get to the courts. And the courts are, of course, where we're going to have, admittedly, a little bit of a downer set of stories, but these are the martyrs who adorn the Westminster Abbey West Gate. And so we'll have the stories of all of them. But first, a look at the artwork on these, done in a mixture of the gold metallic inks. Get little tiny accents of blue and then kind of the black and white on the faces. And look at the background on these, really beautifully done, kind of brings to mind stained glass features. You'll even see here the spade pips that are kind of making up the stained glass design in that little archway there. Beautiful, super ornate background. Great way to kind of frame up the character in the center here. And our first character here, this is Wang Jiming. He was a 20th century pastor in China who was imprisoned and then ultimately publicly executed because he was branded as a counter-revolutionary during the Cultural Revolution that was organized by Chairman Mao. So he refused to stop preaching and was executed for his crimes. And so you see him there with the kind of proud look on his face. Beautiful artwork. I love the engraving style on the faces there. Anyway, the next one here, the Queen, this is Grand Duchess Elizabeth. She was the wife of Grand Duke Sergei Alexandrovich in Russia. After her husband's assassination, she ended up selling all of her possessions, became a nun, devoting her life to God. And then as the Bolsheviks took over in Russia, she and many other nuns were jailed and executed by the regime. Love the look at this. I love the framing here, kind of that diamond shape to her body. But beautiful look at that one. And then next up is the King of Spades. This is Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a German Lutheran pastor, and he was a vocal dissident of the Nazi dictators. And he was ultimately sent to a concentration camp where he was accused of a plot to assassinate Hitler, and ultimately he was hanged for his supposed crime. See him there with the Bible in hand. Love the spectacles on him there. Just a really nice look to it. And I love how the clothing here kind of has the feel of classic courts. All right, now we come to the diamond courts. And by the way, just notice here on the stained glass in the background, now we get changed out to diamond pips. Just a small detail that I love. But the first of our diamonds here is actually one of the ones that isn't included among the 10 statues at Westminster Abbey. So, of course, there's 12 court cards and only 10 statues. So I had to fill in with a couple, but Peter was able to find some interesting and unique martyrdom stories to fill in with the last two. And this is the first of those. This is Paul Schneider, who is a German Protestant minister who is also sent to a concentration camp, just like our last court. This one at Buchenwald, after refusing to abandon his congregation and his beliefs. And while he was there, he was, like so many others, murdered by lethal injection. Very sad story. We're gonna have a lot of sad stories with the martyrs here. And then this is the second filler character that doesn't appear in the 10 statues. This is Edith Stein. She was also a German, a Jewish philosopher who converted to Christianity and became a nun at the age of 30. And like a lot of others, again, during World War II, she as well was sent to a concentration camp and killed in a gas chamber for her beliefs. Another terrible story from World War II. All right, and then we come to the last of our diamonds, and this one now we're kind of back to characters that appear among those 10 monuments. This is Archbishop Oscar Romero. He was a Catholic clergyman in El Salvador who was known as a voice against social injustice and violence in the lead up to the Salvadoran Civil War. In 1980, he was actually shot by a mystery assailant while celebrating a mass. So right in the middle of mass, he was killed. And then 38 years after his death, Pope Francis actually canonized him as a saint. So he's now Saint Oscar Romero. But love the look. I love the cross there, the kind of classic priest garb there with the collar and everything. Great look to that one. All right, next up are the clubs, and this is Lucien Tapietti. I love the sort of diversity in cultures that are celebrated. So this is an Anglican teacher out of Papua New Guinea. who was one of over 300 church workers who were killed during the Japanese 1942 invasion. And in a really interesting twist, the one who killed Lucian here ultimately converted to Christianity himself and then ended up building a church in Lucian's memory. Really kind of touching story of redemption. At least some good ultimately came out of his death. So there's Lucian Tapietti. And then next up, this is probably the most heartbreaking story in the entire deck for me. This is Manch Masamola. She was born in a small village in South Africa, and she wanted to be baptized by the Anglicans, the Anglican missionaries that were there, but her parents did not want her to get baptized. But she continued to go to lessons against her parents' wishes, and one day her parents led her out to an isolated location and stoned her to death. Just incredibly tragic story. She was only 15 years old. So very sad story, but I love that her story kind of gets memorialized in history, obviously through this deck, but more prominently through those statues at Westminster Abbey. Just an awful story, that one. All right, and then next up, another really terrible story. This is Maximilian Kolbe, another victim of the Nazi regime during World War II. He was a Franciscan friar, and he was jailed at the infamous Auschwitz death camp. You see him there with a skull in his hand. And while he was there, he actually volunteered to die in the place of another man. He was lethally injected after the guards brutally starved him for 2 weeks in an isolated cell. Just a terrible story, but just such a great story of his bravery as he kind of took another man's place in death. All right, and then moving on to the final suit, we have the Jack of Hearts there, and this is Janai Luwum. He was the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, and he was arrested for his criticisms of the Idi Amin regime. He died in what officials claimed was a car crash as he was kind of being driven away, but when his body was returned to his family, it was completely riddled with bullets. So obviously the car crash story, not exactly true, but a beautiful, beautiful card for a tragic story yet again. And then next up on the Queen of Hearts, this is Esther John. She was a Pakistani Christian nurse who dedicated the final years of her life to evangelizing the villages near her hospital. And eventually, of course, she attracted the attention of the wrong people and was murdered in her bed. So a story from Pakistan. And then finally, we come to the shores of America for Martin Luther King Jr., the Baptist minister and arguably the most prominent member of the American Civil Rights Movement. Of course, his I Have a Dream speech, it kind of remains a rallying cry for social justice to this day. But a few years after he gave that speech, he was fatally shot as he stood on his motel balcony. And his assassination, of course, kind of served as yet another galvanizing moment in the movement as it continued. So, terrible story, but a great man who lived a fantastic life and had a tremendous and enduring influence. So beautiful look at the core cards. I love the stories on these. Bit downer stories, but great stories to explore and great stories to get a chance to tell. Now we'll get a quick look at the other two versions of the deck. That's just one with the Admiral Blue version. We also have here, this is the Maroon Martyrs version. This one done in red. So a lot of the same elements. Obviously we have some color swaps on this one. The reason I don't like this one as much as the blue, the red here just doesn't stand out as much against the red. So the red foil on red, it's really nice when you hit it in the right light, but in the wrong light, it kind of disappears. So for me, I like the contrast of the blue on blue overall. But still beautiful artwork on this one. I actually do like the tuck seal on this one a little bit better. That kind of maroon, dark maroon color there looks really nice. And we have some of the same artwork on the inside. Of course, this time just done in red sparkly foil. And then the cards themselves have a little bit of a difference on the back design. Now, while I like the tuck on the blue one better, I do think the red and the gold here look great on the back design. I think they do have much better contrast with that gold and red. Just a classic combination. And then you'll see some color differences where some of the blues are replaced with red as we go through the cards themselves. But otherwise, not too much of a difference in this one. It's going to be a familiar deck, so it's kind of more personal preference on which one you like better. For me, I think cards maybe a little better on the red, tucks a little bit better on the blue. But you can see the red highlights replacing on this one. And then the really sort of luxuriest version of the three is going to be the last one with the look at the Golden Grace edition. This one is done in gold and then holographic foil. And I don't know how well this is showing up. It may look like it's just black or clear foil, but all of these clear sections here have kind of a holographic glow to them. So a little bit of rainbow shimmer as you turn this in the light. It's a great look and it kind of gives this one an overall unique feel against that black. Beautiful look to this one overall. You'll see it's more limited where the others were 1,800. This one only 800 of these. And then same beautiful artwork on the interior. Definitely a lot less contrast. That rainbow doesn't show up unless you hit it in just the right light, but just fantastic when it hits. And these have one other little touch that brings them up to the next level, and that's going to be the foil that's used on the back design. So this one, black with gold foil. So nice shine on these. I don't love Taiwan Playing Card Company's foil. The whole card ends up being a little bit shiny, but I gotta give them props. A lot of really clean work. There's some really fine details on here that would have been easy to miss and kind of get muddled up, especially if they'd used a hot foil process. But very clean job on the foil, and the black and gold, just a great color combination. And then the cards themselves go with more gold to replace where we saw the red and the blue before. So you get a lot of gold there on the second Joker, for example. And then all those red and blue highlights now are done in gold. So it kind of gives this one a little bit more of a, I'll call it a monochrome feel to the deck overall. Just two colors with the black and the gold as the primary all the way through. But same artwork, same characters throughout. Just kind of a little bit of a color swap. So again, kind of up to you on which versions you like. For me, I'm glad I picked up the foiled version. I love the colors of the back design there and that contrast. For me, all three of them, I think you can't really go wrong with any of them. If I had to pick, I'd probably go with the blue one, but kind of up to you on which one you like the best. But anyway, that is it. That is the look at Cross. I know a bit of a longer video, but a lot of really interesting stories, and I thought all of them kind of deserve the respect of telling the story of each one of the courts. So I hope you guys enjoy getting a chance to explore those as much as I did in looking them up. So great job by Peter Voth. I hope to see a lot more decks from him in the future because he is a true artistic talent. Just a fantastic job. And of course, Riffle Shuffle, another great job on another one of the luxury decks. Anyway, that's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews, more unboxings. Let me know what other decks you want to see on the channel, and I'll see you for the next one.